Guys, I know it's been a minute since I've actually had a chance to sit down and work on this thing, which is why I'm doing it now, obviously, because it's been a long time coming at this point. I intended to get it done before the break that we went on, but I didn't, and I knew if I didn't, when I got back, it would be a minute before I could. Does that make sense? I hope you follow. Anyways, guys, I'm really sorry about that, but here it is. This is the son of Chroma. This is going to be the part where we go through the build, because I owe it to some of you to actually make a build. And I've done a bad job at that. Recently, everything seems to be coming up and getting in the way when I'm trying to do a build that can go over something. So if you're looking for something comprehensive to how to, maybe it's your first computer that you're building, I hope that this is helpful to you, and I'm trying my best to kind of show people a guideline to go along. Now, I picked some pretty specific parts, and depending on what you pick and what you go with, it's always going to be a little bit different than what I did, and that's fine. I also made some interesting choices here with this build that a lot of you will be like, I'm concerned about this, or question what I did. And that's fine and dandy. I'll try to articulate and explain as best as I can what I did and as I go through the process here. Anyways, you'll find out that if this is your first PC build, building a PC is pretty simple. It's really not that difficult, and you can do a lot with it. On top of that, there's different options to take. If you want to take away from something I did and make it your own thing, well, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. This is not a you must build it by these standards or anything kind of guideline. You can kind of take and choose and pick and choose what you want to do when it comes to building your own PC. This is just a way that I can show you how I spent the money that we had allocated in a certain budget to make something that's really good. While it might not be the most 4K ultra graphics extreme playing machine, it is a good machine, especially for 1080p esports. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, let's check it out real quick. I'll also cover something I kind of messed up. The camera decided not to record. I could blame myself, but I'm gonna blame the camera because I'm pretty sure I hit record on one part, but I'll go over that when we get to it. Now, I like to start with it on a box, and that's just one of the easiest ways to put some of the most simple components in first. And we'll start by putting the M.2 in, the RAM, the CPU. So let's go ahead and start by putting the M.2 in. The M.2 is located on the 270 chipset, 250 chipset, all of that. It just is in great location compared to the 100 series chipset, where it would be right below the hot GPU. When you put it in there, you want to make sure you take that screw and secure it down. It goes in pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward, and as you can notice, this Plextor one is a pretty ugly green color. Luckily, it's not going to be seen because the H7 quad lumi that we're going to put in there is going to cover it up and keep it nice and kind of away from view. So don't worry too much about that. I do like backside implementations better. When you put the CPU in, if this is your first time doing this on an Intel, especially the 1150 or 1151, you'll notice there's a plastic bracket. A lot of them have a triangle that you can kind of use as a guide, but not every motherboard has that where you should match up the triangle. Luckily, the 1151, 1150 sockets are pretty simple with two notches at the top, as you can see. You just kind of slide it in and make sure it's in there secure. Give it a good wiggle, that way you know that it's in there pretty good and it's not going anywhere, and then put the tension arm down. Now, if you don't put the tension arm underneath that guide right there, it's not going to pop. So make sure you go under the guide and then just push on it, and that piece of plastic will pop off. That's normal. Throw it away. You're done with that. Congratulations, the CPU is in the socket securely. Next, we're going to use our Trident Z RGB by G.skill, because for about the same price, I mean, you can get just about any RAM, but $5, $6, $8 more at the time that I got it. That was definitely worth it, and it's going to go well with this vomit of color that is son of Chroma. Now, in old tradition, I always do the A2 and the B2 slot. That used to always be indicative of dual channel RAM. I don't really know if that's the case anymore. I think you can put it just about anywhere to get dual channel enabled, as long as you have two sticks that match and all that good stuff. But I always go with the A2 and the B2 slots, which are the red slots indicated on this board. That's how I set up my dual channel. That's how I've always done it. Again, I don't really know if that matters anymore these days, but if it does, great. That's how you should do it. Once we have our RAM installed, we're going to start doing things like putting it into the tower itself. Now, as you guys know, we went with the N1301. The N1301 is more designed for liquid cooling, and that's just kind of the best perk of it. Now, we didn't go liquid cooling at all because, of course not. Why would I? But anyways, the arch nemesis of my installation has always been the IO shield, and surprisingly, this one went in rather easy. I was kind of taken aback by how simple it was to put that in, when I didn't expect it to be that simple to put in at all. I kind of thought I was going to have a lot more problems with it, but I didn't. It actually went in rather easily, rather nicely, and that was something that I was pretty happy about, because typically a tower gives me a lot of fight on putting an IO shield in. Anyways, if your standoffs aren't in the bottom, make sure that you put all your standoffs in so that you can secure the motherboard properly onto the back of the chassis. They usually have most of them already installed, but if not, you should have had a pack that came with, at least if you go with the N1301, a pack that came with additional standoffs so that when you use them, you can do it better. I always use a magnetic tip screwdriver. It's been around with me for just about every build I've ever done, and I absolutely recommend it and love it. It makes it real easy in case you drop a screw to get that screw back and to put those screws in simply and those tight spots to reach.
Putting the screws in is pretty simple and straightforward. I definitely recommend doing as many as possible. Now, usually most people will just go with those 4 corners, but try to put all of them in if you can. It does help secure the motherboard in there, especially if you have things like heavy GPUs, because you're going to get GPU lag. In the front, you'll notice that we have these 2 fan ports. Now, this is great. If you wanted to put a radiator up here, you can, but I use these Ego fans and I really like them a lot because I couldn't get my hands on any AMZtronic fans that I was really kind of hoping for. They've been sold out for a long time, and I'm going to recommend those down below. Now, the orientation that I did with this, you might question. I did say you'll probably question some of the stuff that I did in this video, and I completely understand if you do. I actually made the front a front exhaust because as intake goes, the beehive is on the back side of the tower. And with the beehive on the back side of the tower, that makes it a little difficult. But we'll go more into that in just a minute. Right here is one of the things I didn't like about the InWin301, as well as those tabs you can see just below my hand there. I didn't like having to break tabs out. I didn't really like the removal process of this. I was kind of hoping for something a little more toolless, but hey, that's okay. It still worked out pretty good. Now, again, the way I'm installing the fans, you're probably going to raise an eyebrow at, but I have a purpose for it. I also have a solution if you're concerned about it being a front exhaust and a rear exhaust setup. You can also put 2 120s at the bottom of the tower to give that cold air in from the bottom and help that warm air rise out of the top. Installing the fans was pretty straightforward. Once you get that bracket out, you just start putting them on and of course run through the whole process of putting them on. So I just also wanted to make sure they were going to fit there, because if they didn't, I had to come up with something pretty quick on the fly. Luckily they fit, and that worked out great for me. So 2 120 Ego fans are going to be in the front, 1 120 Ego fan is going to be in the back, and a curious brother-in-law wandered over to ask questions while I was doing stuff. He wanted to know a little bit about the processor and what it was doing. As you can see, he'll pick up that processor box here in a minute, and I'm trying to explain to him. We wanted the 6400T, but we ended up getting the 6500 because they were out of the 6400T. Why a Skylake processor on a Kaby Lake motherboard? Well, because the backwards compatibility is there and the price is better, and it's a really lateral change. I highly recommend, if you can, and you're not looking to boost to that next level, there's really no need to go that route. So again, here we go. We've got them exhausting out the front. They look great. They're pretty this way, and I didn't want to sacrifice the aesthetics. The beehive on the side pushes the air out. I put my hand there. I can feel it when it's on, and it's nice. Now, we want to use the reset button in order to function with these fans, which means I had to cut the sleeving that they included in the InWin301 all the way off and separate the cables. It's the only little bit of mod work you may have to do if you go with fans like this, or if you go with the AMZtronic fans. You're going to have to do a little bit of mod work by cutting that sleeve just with some barber scissors, as you can see, and then pulling them apart a little bit. That way you can route your reset switch button all the way around to the back, where we're going to install the fan control hub, which will be powered by Molex, but the fans themselves are actually going to be powered by a specialized pin that won't really work anywhere else. So there wasn't much of a solution to this if you wanted to be able to easily change the colors and the pattern or the function of the fans themselves. As you can see here, we have the reset plugged in there, and I'll route the other 2 to the front of the motherboard to the other headers on the motherboard in order to connect the rest, the power and the LED indicator lights. Also, that's another thing. If you don't like the lights on this, you can leave that off. So I used the solid-state hybrid drive, the FireCuda 2TB 7200 RPM, and I like the 2.5 factors. So one of the things I like about this toolless design is it does support the ability to put an SSD or an SSHD of the 2.5 drive size in there easily. That's something I did like. That was nice and simple to do, and that's going to be the main storage. So when we're going through pin headers, I hate installing pin headers, and if you've ever done it before, you probably do too. We'll kind of skip over that part, and cable management should be done on the go. As you're moving through the case, try to route your cables as you go. If you don't do that, you might have a problem later trying to fit everything around everything you've installed. As you can see here, I'm trying to do it as I proceed through the build. I probably should have showed you more, but I didn't. All I'm doing here is making sure that I pick the right slots that the 1050 Ti is going to fit in, because if you're like me, you'll always take out 2 and then you'll try to put it in and then you'll realize you took out the wrong 2. You got to take out another one, so that's all I did there. The 1050 Ti doesn't require additional power, runs strictly off the PCI socket, so that's great, especially because it yielded some pretty incredible results in the test, which you'll see in the next video. Now, here's where I kind of left you off. I thought I recorded some of that H7 Quad Lumi. Unfortunately, that video footage just didn't decide to record because the camera is a jerk. So anyways, we're going to go into that now. I'll tell you a little bit about that experience.
Okay, so this is the part that I think that the camera messed up on, because it's clearly not operator error, because I'm too good. I'm better than you, camera. I'm looking at you. I know you're looking right back at me, but I'm better than you. Anyways, what I'm trying to say here is the H7 Quad Lumi. That was a big part to me that I wanted to put in this. I actually pre-ordered it And some of you that see me on Twitter probably noticed that, you know, I felt like really trolled by Newegg because they were like, all right, cool, your $60 pre-order's done with $400 shipping. Like, no, that's not right. So it was a real pain in the butt trying to get a pre-order. I contacted both CryoRig and I contacted Newegg. But this right here, this beautiful quad Lumi H7 was a good centerpiece, I thought, for this build. Now, it's completely air-cooled. There's no AIO, no closed-loop liquid cooling, nothing like that. There's nothing in there that's liquid cooling. It's all air cooling, and I really thought that this would be not only a nice accent RGB-wise, because it's the amazing H7, however, it's RGB. There's something that needs to be said about it. While I've installed several H7s, even including, but not limited to, the PC giveaway build I did not that long ago, it is one of the easiest coolers I've ever installed. So when you see H7, but it's quad Lumi, it's got lights on it, it should be the same one, but bright, brilliant, and pretty on top of being super easy. Well, it really wasn't. So I want to share that experience now because I'm not redoing it just to show you again. It was actually kind of a pain to install the H7 quad Lumi. It wasn't as simple as the H7 itself. And I just wanted to go ahead and make note of that it wasn't so super simple. And the way I actually do it is I'll put the system together, set it up right, then I'll put the brackets through, and I usually install my coolers in the build itself. A lot of people won't do that. A lot of people like to do it before they put the motherboard in, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I like to do mine after the motherboard's in. I like to then install the cooler that I'm installing in case I want to change orientation in the case. That's how I do it. That's the way I do things. And anyways, like I was saying, the H7 is super cool and super easy to install, so I expected that from the H7 quad Lumi. Not as easy and not as super simple to install. I actually had to remove the fan, had to play with brackets a little differently. It was a lot more pieces and a little bit more of a mess to put together. But overall, it's great and it's wonderful once it's in. Just not the H7 kind of install I was expecting. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. If you've ever installed the H7 before, it's not like the same thing. It's similar to in looks, appearance, and how it does, but it's not quite the same to install. It's a little bit more difficult, a little more tricky. It's not quite as user-friendly as the original H7. So take that for what you want, CryoRig, if you happen to ever watch this. Anyways, guys, I know a lot of you are wanting to see the completed build, things like that, but I'm actually going to save that for another video. We're going to be doing the benchmarks and the temperatures and all that just to see how it did and what it can play, how well it performs, which is pretty surprising, actually. That 1050 Ti was a little bit more than I thought it was going to be. I was a little bit surprised by that because I didn't expect a lot from a 1050 Ti, but it showed me a lot that I didn't expect. We'll take a look at things like temperatures and benchmarks and the things that I ran it through in the next video, which I won't make you wait as long for. It'll be pretty soon after because I'm actually working on them both back to back as I do this now. So I'm sorry if you were expecting the complete conclusion this time because it's not. But the next one will be done. I just didn't want this one to be like a 25-minute video. So there you have it. It'll be released shortly thereafter. And I hope it's helpful to some people. As always, guys, I hope this was helpful and informative. If you liked it, then like it. If you want to get subscribed and stay tuned for more stuff like this, as well as other reviews I'll be doing coming up, then make sure you get subscribed so that you can get that nice fancy email that says, hey, I did something. Wow, hooray, here's a cookie. Yay, I pooped. You know who you are. Anyways, guys, I hope you liked it. Get subscribed. Like it if you like it. Dislike it if you didn't like it. I'll see you guys in the next video that I do. Have a great day, night, whatever it is. Thanks for watching. My name is Matt and I'm alittledimm. Haha, but not because I have a light on it. I'm just kidding, Steven. You know you're one of my favorites. That's why I sent this picture to you earlier this morning. Have a great day, night, whatever it is.